let's explain this one. This is now post free agency mock draft. Okay, so now we've had free agent signings, we had teams sign, players, teams leave, players leave. Oh, not team, not whole teams, obviously, but players leave, go to different teams, sign, fill spots. Maybe there aren't as many spots. The needs have changed. So this is a good representation of what teams need now that they made free agent acquisitions on their teams. Maybe you don't need a wide receiver as much or a tight end as much, etc., because you've already signed one at free agency or lineman or whatever. Keep that in mind. Also, too, now we're into the season of the smoke screens, big time. Okay, so now you see a lot of teams now putting out smoke screens. I'll get to that during the course of the draft, especially when we're talking about the quarterback. But there's a lot of, I think, smoke out there. What are teams? Okay, so you're saying things and you're kind of leaking out. Well, I kind of like this guy. We got an eye on him. They don't have their eye on anything, right? What they're doing is they're creating smoke so they can do what they really want to do. Not always it's a lie, but that's out there. That's out there with the smoke screen. So that keep in mind when you're hearing things a lot of times this time of year, or if you're seeing stuff, especially on websites and things online, have that in the back of your mind. Sometimes these guys aren't, these reporters and things, they're not lying to you, but a lot of times they're not being told the truth because of all the smoke screens that are out there. All right, so let's go ahead and get it. Mock draft 2.0. First up, Chicago Bears with the number one pick. What we say about smoke screens? We like Justin Fields, and we got, and he's yeah. They traded him. They traded him to the Steelers, no question. Caleb Williams is going to be the number one pick. I think they've kind of known for a while. There was some conjecture there, but there was some conjecture because Fields was still there, and it wasn't like the usual circumstances of a number one pick always. But Caleb Williams is there. I'm going to talk about the Commanders and the Patriots at the same time here because it's kind of the same set of circumstances. They kind of did the same thing I think the Bears did, as quiet as it's kept. I think there's a lot of talk that people want to get up to like the Vikings, especially to get up to 3 for the Patriots. And first of all, this mock draft does not do trades. I do not do trades with the mock drafts unless they've actually happened. It could be a trade, I mean, of course, but for the purposes of the mock draft, that takes a lot. So I don't do any trades as far as the mock draft. We do as the board sits. But there could be a trade. I don't think either one of these two teams are trading, the Commanders and the Patriots. It's just 50 cents of one and half a dozen of another. Jalen Daniels, I have at 2 going to LSU, going to the Commanders. I think with the Dan Quinn connection, and Cliff Kingsbury, I think he's the quarterback that's going to fit more what they do. They used to use mobile quarterbacks and things like that. So I think that's the route that the Commanders are going to go. The Patriots, I think they're left with Drake May. They should be very, very happy about that. They went ahead and got rid of Mac Jones, traded him to Jacksonville. So they're definitely in the market for a new starting quarterback. I don't see any reason to trade Mac Jones and then not take a quarterback. I don't really think that. What somebody's hoping is that they don't like one of these quarterbacks, which I can't imagine. All 3 teams need a quarterback. All 3 of these quarterbacks probably are good enough to start as rookies. So I think this is definitely still the way it's going to go. I don't think the Cardinals are going to trade off Marvin Harrison either. I think their teams are going to try. If it is a trade, I could see it maybe 1 spot or 2 spots. Somebody maybe is not going to take a wide receiver. They might trade back a spot, possibly, but otherwise, I don't think they're going to trade off of Marvin Harrison. They're going to keep him because he's fantastic. This is an outstanding receiver as well. The next 2, Roma Odunze from Washington. I like him the second best out of all the receivers. It might be Malik Neighbors, but I like him. I think he kind of fits the Harbaugh mold. That's why he's here and not Malik Neighbors. Kind of more. I see more of that tough guy that Harbaugh likes, that the Harbaugh family likes with him. Kind of attacks the football when he catches it. They badly need a receiver. I don't buy that You don't trade away. They got rid of Mike Williams and they got rid of Malik Allen. So you badly need a receiver. So you can talk all you want about the tight end and all that stuff, but you need receivers to go with Quentin Johnson in last year's draft. So Odeze there. Malik Neighbors, best player on the board. A lot of people have him as receiver 1. I don't think he's receiver 1. I think he's receiver 3, but he's really good. Giants, maybe they're trying to take a quarterback. I don't think there's one there at 6. I don't think you get around that contract with Daniel Jones. I think they're going to have to rock with it one more year. I think the one thing you want to do to make Daniel Jones better is get him a really good receiver like Neighbors. I mean, really, he hasn't had, to defend him a little bit, he hasn't had a really good receiver like this. So keep that in mind. So this is a good pickup for him. Joe Alt, I think this is elementary for the Titans. No question about it. They have a new coach there, offensive line. This is easy, the best offensive tackle in the draft. Joe Alt is a road grader. Pancake City, 4 or 5 guys will take out. If you watch the film, there's no question about it. Best defensive player on the board, Dallas Turner for Alabama. One of Nick Saban's guys. They went ahead and they signed the quarterback. I think if you go defense here, this is probably your best defensive player in the draft. No question about it. Dallas Turner, great bend, great production. A lot of these pass rushers don't have the athleticism and the production. So I think he has both. So I really like Dallas Turner. Terran Arnold, I think he's the best corner in the draft. I think the Bears go ahead, take him, put him next to Jalen Johnson. I think this is a good pickup for the Bears. They've solidified a couple of receiver positions. They went out and they got Keenan Allen. They made some other moves. I think this is a good pickup for them. Fashanu, hopefully I said it right, for Penn State, the offensive tackle from the Nittany Lions. Technically sound is the word. That's what he is. He's a very good, technically sound right tackle. Some people I've seen have different opinions on him. I really like him. He's got great bend and balance. He doesn't ever get pushed over. Sometimes because of his balance, not as physically gifted as an alt, but definitely has the ability. But definitely has a lot of ability. Jared Verse for the Vikings. Number 11, one of the top defensive tackles in the defensive ends in the draft. I think these are 2 of 2. Verse, I'm not as high on. This is maybe a little high than maybe I would pick him, but this is about in the area. Talk about the Vikings a bit. I'm seeing J.J. McCarthy with the Vikings a lot. I don't think McCarthy's a first-round pick. I don't think a lot of teams think that either. What I do think his name is being thrown around like we talked about for smoke. McCarthy, I watched a lot of Michigan games. I'm missing me with the early first-round stuff. I think the Vikings still may grab him. I think it might be in the second pick or in the second. I think he'll still be there with that. They could take Bo next year, or if they like one of the other quarterbacks, you don't know. But I think they wait. I think they definitely need to take a quarterback, but I don't think they do it here in the first round. Bo Nix of Oregon. Denver, here's a guy that you might take late in the first round or second round. I don't think Denver has a choice. they don't have a choice. I've seen that they're trying to float the Jarrett Stidham stuff, like again, smoke screens. You ain't got no choice. You got to take quarterback here because you don't have one in the second. You don't have a second round pick like Minnesota or a second first round pick. So you got to do it right now, or you got to wait to maybe the third round. Then you're left with Spencer Rattler or Michael Pratt or something like that. I'm thinking they're taking a quarterback. Kenyon Mitchell for the Raiders. You never know what the Raiders are going to do. But I think this is an outstanding. He's been good at the Senior Bowl. He's been good all throughout the pre-draft process. He's moved right behind Terrion Arnold on a lot of the boards that I've seen and things like that. He's pretty good. He's pretty good. You worry about the small school a little bit, but the Raiders, they're a wild card. You never know what the Raiders are going to do. J.C. Latham from Alabama. This guy's better than I thought. Huge guy, big guy. You see the size, and I mentioned it before. You think, well, okay, right tackle? No, he's a left tackle. He's definitely got all the ability. Very impressed with him. Very impressed with him. I don't think he's as good as Alt or as technically sound as Fashanu, but he's really good. I think I don't think he makes it out of the top 15. I think the Saints take him with the right tackle need as well. He can play either side. I think the Saints go ahead and grab him at 14. Nate Wiggins at 15 for the Colts. Another team. Lord only knows like what the Colts have in mind. I think this is best player on the board. Tremendous speed for Nate Wiggins. I think right there, him and Mitchell or Wiggins, I think is a good pick for anybody. Mitchell's rose up a bit, so that's kind of slid Wiggins down a bit. But I don't think it's gonna hurt him too much. 15 for the Colts. Lord only knows what Chris Ballard does and Irsay, those weird owners and highly unpredictable what they're thinking. Michael Penix, Washington Huskies. I think Penix has definitely got a shot at going in the first round. I think here the Seahawks might do it. They don't have a ton of needs on their team. So why not take a quarterback where you can this is somebody that played in Washington that they're very familiar with, played behind Geno Smith. I think Geno, maybe this is his last year in Seattle. He can kind of sit maybe early. He could kind of not play right away. And they don't have a ton of needs. They went out, got receivers last year. They have receivers. They have a decent line. They have a lot of, I don't think they're picking the starter in the first round anyway in a lot of positions. So why not take the quarterback there? Zeran Newton, Illinois. I think the Jags need some help on the D line. So I definitely think this is probably the best D lineman in the draft. He played at Illinois. I'm not in love with him like some other people, but I think he's the best D line in the draft. I think he's a little still undersized for me again. You see some of these guys really dominate in college. But I think on the Jags, I think this will work. I think they're going to be happy with this. Brian Thomas, LSU. Really good. There is a need in Cincinnati for wide receivers, definitely. We don't know what's going to happen with T. Higgins. Tyler Boyd is no longer there, apparently. So he's still a free agent. We still don't know. But Brian Thomas, I think, is out there. I think he's definitely – I think he's the last of the automatic first round picks. I think there's four. There's Harrison, Odesi, and Brian Thomas. Harris, Odesi, Neighbors, and Brian Thomas. And I think definitely the Bengals have a need for it as well. They'll go ahead and take Brian Thomas. Brock Bowers. I don't think Sean McVay lets this guy go past. He has top 10 talent. He's just at the wrong position. I don't think not only just him being a tight end. I think a lot of teams don't necessarily need a tight end early. You see a lot of those teams with a tight end, or they're taking a quarterback or something else, or receivers. So maybe the Chargers at 5, but I don't think he slides all the way to the first round. There's no way Sean McVay would love to have a guy with this athleticism. Steelers, Jackson Powers Johnson, big center need in Pittsburgh. So they went ahead and signed Russell Wilson and Justin Fields at quarterback. They signed Patrick Queen on defense, so that was another need, inside linebacker. So maybe it's a corner for them, but a lot of the corners have already gone. I think they definitely filled the center need. This is absolutely the best center in the draft. When you talk about Jackson Powers Johnson, definitely him there as well. Talise Fuaga, Oregon, for the Miami Dolphins. Definitely you have Terran Armstead, older offensive tackle. A little bit of a leak, a little bit of offensive tackle. That's a concern. The way Tua plays there, the way Tua Tagovailoa plays with his injury history, you definitely want to get him protected. So why not take a guy? I think he's a right tackle. So keep that in mind with him. I don't think he plays left tackle, at least not right away. But I think he's a good road grader on the right side. I think it's a good pickup for the Dolphins. Lalu 2 for UCLA. I love him as far as on the field. He's super quick. This is like, I see a lot of Hassan Riddick, that classic speed rusher. So they're making some changes there. They're going to need pass rush. He's absolutely the guy there. I think, honestly, I think the only reason he's below Verse on is the medical history injuries that he's had. I absolutely think that's the reason. But I love him. I absolutely love him. Great speed on him. Fun to watch him. That's the thing. I think that sometimes people don't like to admit that. All these evaluators don't like to admit that, but sometimes a guy's just fun to watch. I mean, that kind of raises the profile in your mind a little bit. Amarius Mims for Georgia. So great come up prospect here. Boom or bust here. This is a guy. Lots of potential. Hasn't played a whole lot, so that'll be interesting. Athletically, he's right up there with Joe Alt, but a lot of potential there. We will see. Doesn't do everything fundamentally well, despite his great athleticism. This guy's the opposite. Jordan Morgan for the Arizona Arizona Wildcats, going to the Dallas Cowboys. Dallas needs something. They weren't in the Derrick Henry. They have a lot of money out there. They need to have a good draft. I think this is a good way to go. Offensive linemen are always a good way to go, in my opinion, to get a draft. They hit a lot of the times. Very rarely do you see linemen in the first round don't become good players. Sometimes you see it, but completely bust out. Not often. I think Jordan Morgan, I think, is definitely a guy the Cowboys could definitely use. They just lost Tyron Smith. Xavier Worthy, the Packers. Some people are going to tell me, okay, the Packers never take a wide receiver in the first round. I don't think that's intentional. I think much too much is made of that. I think you got to look at Xavier Worthy. Look, you got a Christian Watson there on the outside. Why not take a Xavier Worthy to go with Jordan Love going forward? Definitely great speed for this guy. Look, when you run that type of 40 time, it's going to go up boards. Definitely, if Al Davis was still around, you had him at 12 with the Raiders. But definitely with this type of speed, I definitely think the Packers will kind of look at that. Kool-Aid McKinstry. He was the one more that they talked about in college at Alabama. I didn't leave it all because it didn't have enough room there. But Kool-Aid McKinstry, I think he was outstanding in Alabama. I think they had two really good corners. He wasn't as good as Taron Arnold. Kind of sliding down a bit. I think he's a bit higher. I think you still take him in the first round. Definitely a need for the Bucks because they went ahead and got rid of Kool-Aid McKinstry. So yeah, but definitely Bucks solidified something. Bucks might not be half bad. I mean, they went and signed Baker Mayfield, Mike Evans, so they kind of solidified some things. So I think this is a good pick for them. Tyler Guyton, Oklahoma, for the Arizona Cardinals. Can't go wrong with linemen. I think Guyton, of all the ones in Morgan, maybe not hits right away in the first round. Maybe they might have to sit and play guard. But I think definitely he's not going to go in the first round. I think Guyton's definitely going to go in the first round. Guyton's pretty good. I don't know if he's a hit right away though. It'd be interesting to see a little green, I think, for me. Keon Coleman, Florida State wide receiver to the Bills. Bills need wide receiver help. There's no question about it. I don't know what's going on with Diggs. They've lost a lot of players. So, but I think like the wide receiver thing is definitely a thing. You got Gabe Davis. The situation is Gabe Davis is gone. Stephon Diggs, the situation is volatile. They have to cut a lot of players in the cap. They're kind of like in the same spot with the Cowboys. They need to have a good draft here because they're not going to be able to go out and sign players. Cooper DeJean for Iowa Hawkeyes. Get that confused. Buckeyes and Hawkeyes. I think he's the best safety in the draft. I think more and more I see him at corner. I don't blame him for putting in corner. He played corner in Iowa. I think somebody might put him in safety. This is a huge need for the Lions. The secondary was awful last year. They definitely went out and got Carlton Davis. So that helps. And I think you get DeJean. I think that's a strength. This is probably they probably can look at this as something what can get us in the Super Bowl as well. So Deshaun, I think, is excellent pick for them. The Ravens, Troy Fatanatu for the Washington Huskies. I have him at guard. I see him a lot of places at tackle. I think he's a guard right away. I don't think he plays tackle right away. I think he's definitely look. Ravens need both. You need guard and tackle. 3 linemen are now out the door. 3 starters are now out the door. John Simpson, Kevin Zeitler, and Morgan Moses. So you're doing something. So a guy with versatility could compete at either spot. I definitely could see with the Ravens putting him at right tackle if they needed to. I think that's the biggest need. But definitely the Ravens need line help now worse than you did a few weeks ago. Brian Murphy from Texas for fitting in on that 49ers line. So definitely keep that in mind. I think the Niners definitely need line help. They're going to go Armstead a while ago. So they'll definitely keep that in mind. Murphy, I think, is probably good fit in the 3-4. I kind of said the same thing about him as Durant. 3-4, I think, is a good fit for him as well. Lastly, the Chefs, world champions, Adonde Mitchell, wide receiver, Texas. Mitchell, I think, is very interesting. This is another case where people are higher on him than I am, but I think a lot of the receivers are going to go. A lot of this first round, offensive guys, I think more than usual than a lot of years. You got a lot of wide receivers. You got a lot of quarterbacks. You might have as many as 6. I don't have 6, but yeah, I think Mitchell. I don't love him as much. I think he's a good route runner. He doesn't separate enough. I really like to see receivers in college separate, but I think on the Chiefs, he didn't have to carry anything, right? Right? You got Marquise Brown, you got Rashee Rice, who can kind of come in and kind of like sit in zones. I think he's a good fit for them. There you go. There you go. NFL mock draft 2.0. So definitely keep that in mind. So definitely keep that